Therapy costs money. YouTube is free. So now be up on YouTube. And there's a YouTube video I'm going to make. This is the very first episode of my Closet Confessionals where I basically journal from the comfort of my non-aesthetically pleasing closet, because it is the quietest place in my house normally when my kids are home. So if you're a mom who likes to retreat to her closet for a minute, for a break, and you can relate to that, maybe my videos are for you. My name is Jodi, and I currently live with my 2 children, and I talk to myself a lot. And I also feel so different from everybody else. But I'm constantly trying to remind myself that there's no way that there aren't people out there who can relate to me. This first video should be something of an introduction to who I am. And to talk about who I am, I cannot go without mentioning that first and foremost, I am Jamaican. And if you are Jamaican or Caribbean, or maybe even anything where your identity is so intertwined with your ethnicity and where you come from and your culture, then you would get it right away why being Jamaican is so central to who I am. Honestly, I think my Jamaican identity is this very complex thing that exists within me, now living far away from where I was born and raised. And that is kind of what I want to talk about. I feel like my experience is different from a lot of the experiences that I've been hearing about since I moved here. Even the other day, I saw a video of an audition, an American Idol audition. It was a young girl who had left Jamaica. She's also from Kingston, where I'm from. And in the beginning of the video, she says, I had a very rough childhood, and her mother left Jamaica, moved to New York, and she had an amazing, flawless audition, which didn't surprise me because Jamaicans little but with talawa. Everywhere we go, we are the best of the best, talented people. What happens a lot when I meet other Jamaicans or I hear a lot of other Jamaican stories is that a lot of Jamaicans had a difficult time, and that propelled them to make the move to America or to any other foreign place that they moved to. And it's just not really, it doesn't really resonate with me, because the truth of the matter is that my childhood, and I'm gonna try not to cry, my childhood growing up in Jamaica was perfect. I left Jamaica 20 years ago when I was 15. So yes, for the first 15 years, that's where I grew up. All my memories are filled with laughter and sunshine and blue skies and breeze. And I mean, I couldn't have asked for anything better. Me and my sisters, I have 2 sisters, and we're each 2 years apart. I'm in the middle. And we grew up going to the best schools. We had a very nuclear family. Mommy, daddy, married in a house with my siblings. We had great community around us, so I felt like we were very insulated. My parents were very well-rounded people. So my mother is from Kingston and my daddy is from St. James. So he's from the other side of the island. Grew up in a little, I'm gonna call it a little village, okay? Daddy grew up in a little village, and he moved from there to Kingston to pursue his undergraduate degree at the University of the West Indies. And that's where he met my mommy, and then they got married. They got very involved in their church, and they built a community around themselves. And then they were able to provide me and my siblings with a very structured home. Okay, we were very sheltered kids, but at the same time, like I said, all my memories of my childhood are of me climbing trees and picking fruit from our trees in the yard and playing in the mud and running around outside. And we had everything we needed and everything we wanted. A big chunk of my childhood, they were married. The last few years before we emigrated and moved to America, my parents divorced. Me and my sisters, we lived with my mom. But even though we lived with my mom, I saw my dad every day. So in the morning, mommy would take us to school and daddy would pick us up from school. Me and my 3 sisters were all going to 3 different schools. So daddy would go and do the rounds and pick us each up from school. And during our ride home, we talk about our day. We talk about what was going on at school. And then on the weekends, we would spend time with daddy. We had designated days where we'd go over to his house and we called it family time. And it was intentional time that we spent with my dad. So again, even in my parents' divorce and what you would think would be maybe a catalyst for some kind of interruption in the structure that we had, it wasn't. I think my parents, in hindsight now as an adult, thinking about what that might have been like, they excelled at giving us structure even when there was a break in their marriage. I mean, who could ask for any better than that? I went to the best school in Jamaica, Immaculate Conception High School. The girls that I was around were extremely competitive, nurturing. I have imagery of me laying on the grass in the sunlight with my best friends, just laughing and chatting, talking about what we would be like in the future and the kind of women that we wanted to be, and challenging each other and encouraging each other. It was peaceful. Me and my sisters also participated in a lot of sports. If you're Jamaican, you will know that in the schools in Jamaica, we pride ourselves on performing arts, okay? In schools, there are a lot of assemblies and plays that the kids at school put on. Like, we just had a very well-rounded childhood. And so when I hear people talk about having had a very tumultuous or difficult childhood in Jamaica, seeking a better life here, coming here, and also struggling here, but like striving for something, I find that to be so remarkable and interesting. And while I can appreciate those stories, I cannot relate. We moved to Connecticut. We moved to Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is a very diversity. Okay, there's a huge Jamaican presence in Bridgeport. And that's another thing about being Jamaican and living abroad. It's amazing that you can go anywhere in America and you will find your people. To the point where in some cities and states, like in New York, for example, when I lived there is such a huge and vibrant Jamaican presence that oftentimes I don't even feel like I'm missing home. Besides the weather, the food is there, the people is there. If I walk down the street, I can hear people talking in a way that I can understand. You feel comfortable, right? So in Bridgeport, Connecticut is another diverse city. There are a lot of Jamaicans there, but I went to a private school in Trumbull, Connecticut. There were 400 students in the entire school. So it's a small school, and me and my 2 sisters then walk up in the school and we stood out like a sore thumb. Those kids had never heard people talk the way that we talked. And they asked a lot of ignorant questions. It was 2000 and what year that? 2004. And so yes, internet existed, but like the internet felt like it was in its infancy, right? Like we did have it, but yet people were ignorant. I come to school and the kids are asking me if we wear loincloths in Jamaica. They ask me if we wear a loincloth, if we live in huts on the beach. And I'm looking around like, again, coming from where I come from, where I had such a nice, well provided for childhood, to come to this school where I was not impressed. And for the first time now, I am out of my breath. I don't understand the people around me. The people around me don't understand me. And I found myself retreating into this shell of a person. And I think that happening at a time where I was becoming my own, a crucial adolescent year to shake up, who I see myself as and who I thought I was going to be, I think was really, really hard. Devastating, maybe even. I was also the youngest kid in my class. People pointed out my age a lot. It made me feel very different. The way that I talked was different. And so the very first thing that I did when I moved to America was I practiced how to change my accent. Can you imagine? I would go home and I would turn on the TV and I would practice my accent. My intention was to no longer stand out. I just wanted to do my time. I just wanted to do my time and get out of there. I missed home desperately. Desperately. I missed feeling like I was home. Feeling like I belonged. Feeling like I was understood. So when I moved to the world, I just wanted to speak and have people just hear what I say, understand what I'm saying, and move on. Like, I didn't want to stand out. The very next year, I went to a predominantly white college in Danbury, Connecticut. Nobody knew I was the Jamaican girl unless they met my sister, who also went to the school. She was a year ahead of me in school, her freshman year, and she met a lot of people. People knew her as a Jamaican girl. And then the next year I came to the school as well, and she would introduce people and they'd be like, "Oh my God, but you don't sound Jamaican." Because that wasn't what I wanted people to focus on. I didn't actually want anybody to know anything about me, for real. I think I was so protective of my Jamaican identity and the criticisms that I faced when I first moved here, that in order for me to protect that very precious piece of me, I was like, we're not gonna talk about it. You're not worthy of hearing about what my childhood was like, or what my country is like, or what my people are like. So unless I allow that part of me to be shown, you're not going to know anything about it. I did that at an age where I was still developing, and there came a point in my early adult life where I couldn't switch it. I couldn't do it on cue. So let me give you an example. If I wake up in the morning, right, and I go out into the world and I order a bacon, egg, and cheese in the Bronx, New York, where I was living as a young adult. And then I get on the subway and I'm talking to the lady sitting next to me on the subway, American and another American. Then I get to work and I'm talking to my American boss. And then I'm on the phone with American people. As I go throughout the day, my accent waters and waters and waters down. And every person that I meet, they don't meet the authentic version of myself, that talking the way that I would naturally talk. And I couldn't switch it, because whatever accent I would hear would be what I would basically like emit, because I wanted people to understand me. It's been so many years, 20 years. I grew up and I got a job and I moved out and moved into my own apartment, and I met a man and I got married and I had kids. And now I am a woman who revels in her Jamaican identity and loves that part of her so much. But it's been so many years, 20 years of morphing into these versions of me that honestly I believe came about because I had to survive. I had to survive mentally as a young girl who left her home and just wanted to go back to a young woman who is working in corporate America and feels the microaggression around her every day, not just as a Jamaican in the workforce, but now moving to America and realizing how much racial identity plays a role in my life that it didn't before. It did not exist before. And now I'm hyper aware of my blackness in a way that I was not aware of. Of course, in Jamaica, I was black, right? Of course, in Jamaica, I'm a black woman, but it never came to my forethought that this is who I am on a daily basis until I moved here. That was such a those are complex feelings that I had to process as a young woman. And in order to survive, I had to make sense of all of it. And now I'm in a place in my life where I just want to be. I want to be exactly and authentically who I am. And it's so hard. It's so hard because even now it's hard to switch it back off. Like, that's not who I am anymore. This is how I talk. This is who I am. And it's not easy because when you've gone 20 years morphing, adjusting, processing, healing, those scars and those memories cannot be undone. I don't know if anybody else can relate to that journey, but if you can, I hope you come back again. Today, I'm going to film from my front camera because I can see myself and it just makes me feel more comfortable.